Hi, friends. This is Joel, and I'm so happy to have you exploring this podcast with me. For fun, we're calling this podcast Mystery Bible On, because I love puns, and it's a terrific offbeat reference. If you know, you know. Since you're here with me, we probably have something in common. We're both interested in a biblical perspective on a whole worldview of topics. For this podcast, we're going to be having fun with all kinds of weird topics and doing our best to understand those strange and mysterious things from a biblical interpretation. Now, I want to warn you up front, we're going to be treading some strange waters, tasting some strong medicine. You may be hearing ideas and applications you've never heard before. That's not because I'm trying to twist the Bible or create sensationalism. It's just that the Bible is bigger and more mysterious than many church pulpits are likely to explore. There's value in taking bigger perspective and being able to challenge our preconceived notions. So what are we doing here on this podcast? We're exploring the things that you've probably heard of but almost never hear addressed in typical sermons. We're going to jump into the unexplained, the sometimes scary, the mind-bending, the phenomenal, the supernatural, the conspiratorial, and the oh-so-enormous topics that you've either long wondered about or once dismissed as silly, and now wonder if you should be reconsidering, but are way too nervous to bring up in your local Bible study or at a church group. Now, if you attend a church, that's great. I also attend church, and I've attended Christian churches for most of my life. I've even taught regularly from a church pulpit, and I've learned the Bible all my life. If you don't attend church or have very little background in the Bible, you're absolutely welcome here, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Keep in mind, though, that no matter where you are in your spiritual walk, this podcast is not a replacement for church or basic Bible study because we're not focusing on fundamental scripture literacy, church doctrines, or basic understanding of salvation as many good studies and sermons do. I always encourage you, of course, to find a healthy church congregation and get involved. I also encourage you to do your own personal study in the Bible. Read it for yourself, because your relationship with your Creator is, first of all, personal. So, all that being said, buckle up. We're going to cover topics like cryptid creatures, alien abductions, ancient myths and legends, old dusty scrolls, UFOs, conspiracy theories, secret societies, world events, and of course, uncomfortable Bible passages. If you've ever wanted to talk about the Nephilim, giants, Bigfoot, ghosts, ESP, missing people, the Fae, demons, disembodied voices, angels, prophecy, spiritual warfare, the end times, or just what the heck is going on out there in the big, wide, mysterious world, these kinds of topics are all fair game here, and none of them is bigger than the Bible. Now, since we're just getting started, and this is the first recording, then I can't tell you how everything's going to go or exactly where I want to dive deep on one topic or skim over another. But I thought to get these early episodes kicked off, it sounded fun to discuss some books and other content that are outside typical mainstream narrative. So for these initial episodes, I'm going to talk about something interesting and weird and thought-provoking that I've read, and how it may relate to the Bible. We'll discuss how it's possibly supported by Scripture, or maybe how it flies in the face of God's truths. We might discuss books and ideas by current authors like, say, Michael Heiser, Timothy Alberino, Richard Dolan, Fritz Zimmerman, Tom Horn, L.A. Marzulli, Tom DeLonge, or many others. I kind of also want to discover ideas and writings of past authors like George Pember or Immanuel Velikovsky, Bud Hopkins, Carla Turner, Lloyd Pye, and more. If you've never heard of those guys, that's fine. Their ideas are really exciting and they all relate to the kinds of topics we described before. Now, beyond books by expert contemporary authors, you can also expect that we'll be discussing ancient and controversial materials like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, Dead Sea Scroll fragments, the Book of Giants, the Testament of Amram, not to mention the Apocalypse of Ezra, and more. If we get real brave, then maybe we'll cover Native American mythologies, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Enuma Elish, and more legendary manuscripts and inscriptions from very early civilizations. And as I mentioned, you can expect we'll be spending time in the Bible itself, from Genesis to Revelation, as well as a lot in between. So if you're familiar with those, great. If you're not familiar with them, great. In the discussion and analysis of those kinds of ideas, we're going to get good stuff across the board. And I hope the cross applications and the conversation and the new thoughts will encourage and inspire you as much as the journey of learning has continued to bless me. I want to point out too, I'm expecting that I'll be able to have guest hosts join me from time to time so we can keep things fresh. And if you're listening, maybe you're one of those future guest hosts. If anybody's concerned in the kind of stuff that I've listed so far, I do want to emphasize and acknowledge that just because we talk about a book or idea or concept here doesn't mean we endorse it or recommend it. I want this podcast to be a place where we can courageously explore, but also have the sense to step back when we see something toxic. The Bible and the gospel of Jesus Christ are our map, our lantern, and our compass. Whatever happens with this podcast venture, all I can promise you is that it will be fun, sometimes very strange, and always thought-provoking, new thoughts and growing faith and love for our Creator. So that's what I'm thinking so far, guys. I felt inspired to give this podcast concept a try, and God willing, it'll be edifying to you and to me, and maybe even take us places we haven't imagined. Thanks again for joining me, and let's get started.